Welcome to DSEJ Home Classes. Namaskar. Today we are going to talk about the plant kingdom, and in the continuity of the series after discussing the group algae, bryophytes, today we are going to discuss the third group of the plants, to which we call pteridophytes. So first of all, let me introduce you to the term pteridophytes. Here the spelling, as you can see, P-T-E-R-I-D-O and P-H-Y-T-E-S, and the word P is silent here, so we must pronounce it as the pteridophytes. Introducing to the group Pteridophyta, I have to tell you that this is a group of ferns and their relatives. The pteridophytes include horsetails and the ferns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes or as the soil binders. They are frequently grown as ornamentals because of their extreme beautiful appearance. Evolutionarily, these are the first terrestrial plants which possess the vascular tissue, the xylem and the phloem. Now, pteridophytes, which are also known as the snakes of the plant kingdom, as I have written here, the snakes of the plant kingdom, pteridophytes are the first vascular plants. By first vascular plant, I mean to say the word vascular means they are in possession of the vascular tissue, that is xylem and the phloem. As my dear students, you know the xylem is the water conducting tissue and the phloem is the food conducting tissue. Pteridophytes are the first vascular plants, and in all they consist of about 400 living and about which include mostly many fossil genera and 10,500 species all over the world. Now, so far as this word pteridophyta is concerned, it is derived from a Greek word, pteron, meaning the feather, because of its feather-like appearance of the many plants. As you can see in this diagram, they are the feather-like plants. And of course, they are called as the snakes of the plant kingdom because of their appearance like a snake. And of course, they are the vascular plants. They possess xylem and the phloem. Coming more closer to their salient feature, I have to tell you the first salient feature that pteridophytes have. They have heterologous diplohaplontic life cycle. What I mean to say by this heterologous diplohaplontic life cycle, that in their one life cycle, they show two stages. Out of these two stages, one is haploid and other is diploid. Because the diploid stage is the sporophyte, which is most dominant plant body, and the second is the gametophyte, which is haploid. It is a small and simple called as the prothallus. Now, I have already told you in the group Bryophyta that they show two generations in one life cycle. One is haplontic and other is diplontic. One is haploid, other is diploid. What is the difference? Also, these pteridophytes, they show the alternation of generation of the haploid gametophyte and the diploid sporophyte organism. But what is the difference between the alternation of generation of the gametophyte and the sporophyte is like that. In case of bryophytes, the gametophyte was the most dominating stage, whereas in case of these pteridophytes, the sporophyte is the dominating stage, which indicates us of the evolutionary trend that evolution proceeds from haploid life cycle towards the diploid life cycle. The sporophyte of the pteridophytes, it has true roots, true stems and true leaves. Now they are the vascular plants, as we are I am telling you, and that's why they are the terrestrial, because they can suffice their needs for water from the roots, and through the xylem it can be uptaken to the upper parts of the plant. But in xylem, as we see the xylem of the typical higher plants, the xylem lacks vessels. The vessels are absent in the xylem, and the phloem of the pteridophytes do not contain the companion cells. Whenever the sporophyte is going to undergo the process of reproduction, it bears the spores, and spores develop in the sporangia, and the sporangia, they contain homosporous spores or the heterosporous spores. This is a very important term, the homosporous and the heterosporous, and is of great evolutionary significance. By the term homosporous, we mean to say only one type of spores are produced, and by the term heterosporous, we mean to say two types of spores are produced. One are smaller and marks the male spores, and the one are bigger in size and are considered to be the female spores. Sporangia are produced in sporophylls, and sporophylls are grouped together in the sorus. The word is singular and sorai is the plural word. I will explain it here. As you can see in this figure, the two generations of the pteridophytes as represented here. This is the gametophyte and this is the sporophyte. In between, it is shown the sporangium, how the sporophytic generation, it leads to the gametophytic and two cycle in nature, and it's how the cycle of the pteridophytes is completed. You can see here the sporophyte is having the leaves which are the fern-like, which are the feather-like, and then they get the name feather pteridophyte because of this appearance. They have a well-developed rhizome which bears the roots at the lower end, and then the spores at the time of maturity, they bear the sporangium, which are grouped together in the sorai, and haploid spore is produced from it. The haploid spore develops to produce very inconspicuous but still present the gametophyte, to which we probably call the prothallus. And this gametophyte, it bears the sex organs which fuse, undergo syngamy, produce zygote and form the sporophyte. Explaining it in a little more detail, you see this diagram and you see the life cycle of pteridophyte, how it proceeds. It starts from the sporophyte. This is the sporophyte. Here is the sporophyte, which is 2N. It bears megasporophylls. It bears microsporophylls and the megasporophylls. Now, the microsporophyll, it forms the microsporangium. The megasporophyll, it forms the megasporangium. Both undergo meiosis and respectively produce microspores and the megaspore. Microspore develops into the male gametophyte. The megaspore develops into the female gametophyte. This is the gametophyte. If it develops from the microspore, it grows into a micro gametophyte. If it develops from the megaspore, it forms the female gametophyte. Then the male gametophyte, it produces antheridium, antherozoite, and then the sperms. Female gametophyte produces orchigonia, egg, and they fuse together to form the zygote, which develops into embryo. Then it develops into young sporophyte, and ultimately a full-fledged sporophyte is formed, and this is how the life cycle gets completed, as you can see in this figure. Now, talking about the major these pteridophytes, I have to tell you that this is a very large group. It consists of a large number of lot of diversity, and correspondingly we have divided it into 4 subgroups: the Xylophyta, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, and the Pteropsida. We shall be discussing these groups one by one. So let us first start with the group Xylopsida, which is also called as the whisk fern. Xylophyta are the whisk fern. It has 2 genera, Xylotum and Temsiteris, and they in turn consist of about 4 to 8 genera. Out of all the pteridophytes, it is considered to be most primitive. They are rootless with the rhizoids, which is a feature in common with the bryophytes. The leaves are often absent. Dichotomously branched, photosynthetic stem, and they possess the stele in its very primitive form, which we call the protostele, which is the condition where the central core of xylem, which is surrounded on all sides by the phloem. This is homosporous, synangium, trilocular structure, and that encloses sporangia. And this is the group. The Xylophyta consists of some members which are fossil groups, for example, Rhynia and Horneophyton. And the living genera are Xylotum and Temsiteris. If we talk about Xylotum, also called as the whisk fern, this genus of the fern-like vascular plant, one of the two genera in the family Xylotaceae, either Xylotales and class Xylotopsida. The name of the genus is from the word xylos, which means bare, means it doesn't consist of the leaves, referring to the lack of the usual plant organ such as the leaves. Now, let's come to the second group, and that is the Lycopsida. The members of the Lycopsida, Lycopodium, they are also called as the club mosses or the creeping cedars, because if you see these plants, they look like the cedrus plant, but these are the, in fact, the pteridophytes, and therefore they are analogously given the name creeping cedars. They bear the sporangia on their leaves, which are kidney-shaped, and this is the group which is again homosporous, by which I mean to say they consist of only one type of spores. Now, next is the equisetales. This is the diagram of the equisetum, and equisetum, which is properly known as the horsetail or the scoring rush. It is now represented by about 30 species which are seen worldwide except in Australia and New Zealand. Otherwise, they are cosmopolitan in their distribution. Some species prefer damp and shady places, while others grow in the marshes, ponds, or the stream banks. Some are found in the xerophytic habitat because of their very lesser requirements for the water. And this is the equisetum. You can see how it exists in nature, and this is the diagram of the equisetum, which this is the body which shows the presence of the nodes and the internodes, and here it is the strobilus which bears the sporangia, and then the sori or spores are born, and the spores give rise to the prothallus, and this is homosporous. Therefore, bisexual prothallus is obtained and the life cycle proceeds. The last one is the Pteropsida. This is quite advanced group in among all the pteridophytes. The sporophyte has underground rhizome, which shows a complete development of the rhizome, and rhizome bears the anchoring thread-like structures which anchor the roots which anchor the plant to the substratum. The leaves are compound and they show circinate vernation. Circinate vernation means the leaf opens up in the snake-like fashion and a full frond is obtained. Sporangia are born on the underground leaves in clusters called as sporangiophores, and sporangia are covered in the sorus, and the sorus has a tissue called as the indusium which opens up, and the spores are released in the nature, and then these spores, they are dispersed and form the prothallus, and because it consists of some members which are heterosporous, therefore this is considered to be advanced group. Now what is this? Why the having the heterosporous nature is considered to be advanced one? Let me explain to you. The heterospory, this is the precursor of the seed habit, because in the still higher groups, that will be the gymnosperms and the angiosperms, we will be finding the development of the leaves, and heterospory is the beginning or the precursor of the seed. Sporangia show greater specialization than those of ferns. They are differentiated into micro and megasporangia. Microsporangia possess microsporangia, whereas megasporangia bears the megaspores in them. Each microsporangium contains a large number of microspores, whereas megasporangiums usually have 1, 2, 3 or maximum 4 megaspore. The condition of production of two kinds of dissimilar spores differing in shape and size in some species is termed as heterospory. Because heterospory means the differentiation into male and the female component, and this event is considered to be precursor of the seed habit, and this is very important step in the evolution. So this is all about the pteridophytes. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy. You can see this is in the diagram. You are seeing the cercinate vernation, as I indicated to you earlier, that the members of the group Pteropsida, they show cercinate vernation. This is how it occurs. Now that's all for today. I wish you all good health. Stay safe, stay healthy till I meet you next time. And in case you have any query, you can call me on my phone number or on my email address given at the end of this presentation. So till we meet next time, it's okay.